Thank you. At this time, I would ask that Mr. Hollis Copeland unmute his microphone and ask Mr. John Hoffman, Senior Vice President and General Counsel and member of the Bar of the State of New Jersey, to administer oath of allegiance and office to Mr. Copeland.
Mr. Chair, I do not know if Mr. Hoffman is on just yet. His internet is out and I think he's trying to dial in.
Let's wait a minute or two for Mr. Hoffman, please. As possible. In the essence of time, I'm going to move to the public comment. I will come back to the induction of Mr. Copeland. We'll move now to the public comment section.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
apologize. I was on mute. Mr. Hoffman just joined.
Okay, great. Mr. Hoffman?
Yeah, I apologize again, Mr. Chair. I'm having significant transmission issues down in South Jersey.
Not a problem. I'm sure that Mr. Copeland is looking forward to the oath of allegiance to the office.
Hollis, are you on?
Yes, I am.
All right. And Hollis, I just want to say actually before this, what an incredible honor this is to be able to swear you into the board. So
I
repeat after
appreciate you.
me.
I truly
I, Hollis
appreciate
A.
it.
Copeland,
I, Hollis A. Copeland,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and I will bear I didn't hear exactly what you said, John.
sorry, Hollis, that I will bear true faith
I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established in
and to the governments established in
the United States
the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially.
and justly perform
You broke up again, John.
and justly perform
And justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
of the office
of the office
of member of the Board of Governors
of a member of the Board of Governors
of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey,
of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Hollis.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations, Hollis. I look forward to serving with you on the Board of Governors. Welcome.
Thank you, by all means.
At this time, I'll turn our attention to the public comment section. The public have signed up to speak on specific agenda items and will be called upon to provide remarks. Speakers will be allotted 2 minutes for comment and must speak to the agenda item they signed up for. At this time, I will ask Secretary Prosper to start calling on the people who have signed up for the public comment, please.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call Dr. Monica Roth.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. My name is Monica Roth, Senator representing RBHS and member of the Senate Budget and Finance Committee. I'm speaking today about my concerns about the lack of information regarding the budget and finance planning for the proposed merger. First, I'd like to point out that the FAM report did not endorse the merger. They noted that a large influx of funds would be needed for it to be successful. The Senate's first response to Dr. Strong's request for merger included a large number of questions regarding costs. These answers were not provided, initially stating that there would be none. The ECG consultant committees in 2022, as well as the town hall meetings, did not address budget and finance. The cost of the ECG and the LCME liaison was approximately $400,000. The Senate Finance Committee asked the CFO of the university for a report on the cost of the proposed merger. He answered that it had not been performed as they had not received a plan to work off of. The UEI DUNS numbers of the two schools have already been joined, so no additional benefits for the total NIH funding for the two schools can be forthcoming. No additional tuition dollars will result from the mergers, as the two schools have no plans or capacity to increase the number of students. Any plans for merger, the two medical schools must include a detailed financial plan. This would include potential cost savings as well as projections for costs, including outside consultants, rebranding, additional administration to oversee the joint schools, additional resources to provide the equity of services across the campuses, and the shuttle bus services between campuses, just to name a few. I hope the BOG would expect a financial analysis for this merger that would go beyond a merger light statement provided by Dr. Strong. My grandmother, when asked how much something would cost, she would answer a fortune. I'm asking the BOG to expect a more detailed analysis for this proposal, as the Senate has already requested and not received. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call Dr. Laura Willett.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm Laura Willett, Professor Emerita at Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. In 2019, Chancellor Strom appointed me to the committee which studied the proposed merger for an entire year. Our committee failed to recommend a merger unless it was accompanied by a large, quote, naming level donation for several serious reasons. For medical schools, bigger may not always be better. The merged school with a projected class size of about 360 could be literally the largest medical school in the US. Our aspirational peer medical schools like Michigan have class sizes closer to 150 than 360. This huge size would likely make our school less attractive to our most highly qualified students. The recently released consultant report is not reassuring on this front. It surveyed only 10 non-identified residency programs. It did not focus on the most selective residency programs, which is where the problem would lie. Also, accreditation by LCME is critically dependent on a school's ability to provide, quote, comparable clinical experiences to all students, which would be much more difficult with a class size of 360 versus 180. Therefore, a merger could threaten our long-term accreditation. By comparison with these major risks, the benefits of a merger are modest and mostly achievable without a merger. Our committee strongly recommended greater research and educational collaboration, all of which could be done without merging. A merger would result in a small improvement in the US News and World Report ranking, summing the research funding of both schools into, quote, one new school would artificially improve the ranking without actually improving either research or education. The committee estimated that the ranking would improve by about 5 to 8 points out of about 150 schools. In the absence of major new resources, the benefits of a merger are not worth the risks, and it might have unexpected financial expenses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call Dr. Catherine Mazzola to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Catherine Mazzola. I'm a graduate of New Jersey Medical School and the New Jersey Medical School Neurosurgery Residency Program in 2001. I've been teaching at University Hospital since 2017. I've been caring for children from Newark over this time, teaching residents and working with the faculty at New Jersey Medical School and University Hospital. I also just finished my first year of law school, and I'm a member of the Newark Community Coalition. I can speak to the severe and significant deterioration of clinical services and support since Rutgers came to University and New Jersey Medical School. In my opinion, UH and NJMS hoped and expected an academic and a fiscal benefit through our association with Rutgers. We were willing partners in the association. But what has happened was a loss and misappropriation of whatever limited resources University Hospital had. Service lines, physicians, and residents have been reassigned to Cooperman, St. Barnabas, and Robert Wood Johnson and taken out of Newark. The residents loved their experience in Newark. Many of the residents did not have a good experience in New Brunswick. And unfortunately, even the neurosurgery residency program residents have now been pulled out of New Brunswick because of that. The management of our department in neurosurgery has not been good. In fact, it's been quite a disaster. We've lost accreditation and we're now on probation, and we're very nervous about this. In pediatrics and in neurosurgery, the two clinical areas where I have experience, I can tell you that children and their families have been hurt. The pediatrics residency at University Hospital was closed. We lost our residents. The pediatric faculty is struggling. The Newark community certainly deserves better. I hope you've read the article that I wrote about the importance and significance of the Newark Accords for the people in Newark. We don't have the staff or support in terms of residents and attendings and nurses that we so desperately need in Newark. The merger of the medical schools will hurt and not help people in Newark. We have children waiting in the PACU and in PEDS ER for days for pediatric beds because we don't have those pediatric beds anymore. The waiting lines in the emergency room are longer than ever. The relationship has been a drain on University Hospital and New Jersey Medical School. We've only been hurt by this. The Black and brown communities in Newark have been damaged. We need to stand up for what's right and protect our community in Newark. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you for your service on the Board of Governors for Rutgers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call Dr. Melissa Rogers, please.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I am an optimist. I recognize the great potential of collaboration between Rutgers' two medical schools. I am a biomedical scientist and educator of students in the New Jersey Medical School, School of Dental Medicine, and School of Graduate Studies. I am the elected president of the NJMS faculty organization. And finally, I co-chaired the Culture and Identity Committee convened by Dr. Strom. Our detailed report addressed how will the medical school's integration ensure that the campuses are equal, co-equal. The medical school accrediting body, the LCME, prizes co-equality. NJMS is not co-equal to RWJ now. Failing to correct real and perceived differences will jeopardize the accreditation of a merged medical school. The student-faculty ratio at NJMS has been, for 5 years, 1.5-fold greater than for RWJ. Despite this ratio, the number of faculty at NJMS declined to 487, while that of RWJ has increased by nearly 7% to 714. Today, this morning, I just learned that the excellent breast cancer surgeon next door to my office has left New Jersey Medical School. RWJ Barnabas Health awarded 25-fold more mission support to faculty in New Brunswick and Piscataway than to Newark faculty. Finally, NJMS functions in aged buildings while new buildings rise in New Brunswick. Despite failing infrastructure and fewer faculty, NJMS faculty still win more NIH dollars relative to RWJMS. These dollars, these hard-won grant dollars, support local jobs and help mentor local students. According to a large joint faculty survey, both faculties felt that clinical, research, and education needs are not addressed equally at each school. Long-running staffing and infrastructure deficits in Newark could have been corrected in the past decade. Instead, 10 years of neglect have sown distrust and fear. I am optimistic that the Board of Governors will postpone this vote, address the Senate concerns, and focus on supporting the great work we do in Newark. Thank you very much.
And thank you.
Mr. Chair, Dr. Christine Rohowski Cochan had signed up to speak, but due to extenuating circumstances, Dr. Rogers will read her statement. Dr. Rogers.
Thank you very much. Dr. Rohowski Cochan is the current president of the RBHS Faculty Council, and so I'm reading her words. There is little support for the proposed merger from the array of medical school stakeholders, which include faculty, students, and the community. The faculties of the two medical schools have not voted on the merger. Additionally, students were consulted on a limited state basis, and therefore their uniquely vital concerns are relatively unknown. The faculty of the two schools are not only stakeholders, but possess or should possess governance authority. The results of a survey of the faculty at New Jersey Medical School and Robert Wood Johnson Medical Schools conducted in November 2022 expressed concerns over the possible merger of the two medical schools. Briefly, the chief concerns were as follows. Less than a third of the respondents felt that a merger would improve their ability to function. Over 40% identified physical distance, a single chair structure, and different clinical systems as factors that would impair their ability to function. Existing recruitment and retention problems would be worsened by the merger. Note, this is in direct contrast to the hypothesis from the Chancellor's most recent report dated January 2023, that a merger would improve recruitment and retention. A detailed plan to harmonize processes between the schools with a fiscal analysis should be developed. Unresolved issues from the UMD&J Rutgers merger and the affiliation with RWJBH should be solved. The relationship between University Hospital Newark and the Robert Wood Johnson Barnabas Health Clinical Enterprise should be clarified and documented. University Hospital must retain its status as a primary teaching site for NJMS or a merged medical school. The overall results highlight concerns and a desire for answer to many unresolved important questions before a merger is performed. This is by Christine Rohowski Cochan on behalf of the RBHS Faculty Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call Ms. Ingrid Hill to speak.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good morning, Rutgers University Board of Governors, My name is Ingrid Hill. I'm the Vice Chair of Internal Affairs for the People's Organization for Progress. I'm a Newark Community Coalition member, as well as graduating class of 1972 from Rutgers. Since the intent of the merger of the Robert Wood Johnson Medical School in New Brunswick with the New Jersey Medical School in Newark was first introduced by Chancellor Strom, one of its primary advocates, and followed by presentation that Pop attended, the People's Organization for Progress has continued to voice its opposition to such merger. The People's Organization for Progress is a grassroots organization fighting for racial, social, economic justice, and peace. The importance of the New Jersey Medical School remaining separate from the Robert Wood Johnson Medical School is coupled with the issue of equity as it relates to healthcare for the Newark community in particular and the overall state in New Jersey. The merger would weaken University Hospital, the only public hospital in the state of New Jersey where health services are made available to all regardless of affordability, and serves as one of New Jersey State's trauma centers. The impact would decimate both the hospital and the medical care providers' ability to provide the necessary medical services to some of the most vulnerable patients. In addition, the merger would prove to be a decision that undermines quality and equitable healthcare in New Jersey, again, especially to those most in need, as history has continued to demonstrate. In a democratic society, those who are most affected should be engaged in the decision-making process. Although some public hearings were held, how they were coordinated and whether they were made available to all of the Newark residents raises serious questions as to what the overall intent of the process was really designed to do. Given the historical inequities to which Newark community has been subjected regarding equitable quality healthcare, disregarding the true intent of the Newark Accords, the difference in resources afforded to the two medical schools should set off an alarm to those who truly believe in making decisions that best serve the needs of the masses and not a selected few. Additionally, we have serious concerns regarding shared governance at Rutgers University, where it was brought to our attention that the Senate had not approved the merger. In the culture of shared governance, the Board of Governors should not vote for the merger without considering the position taken by the Senate. Once again, we're requesting that the two medical schools should not merge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call James Harris to speak.
Good morning. My name is James Harris. I am the former president of the New Jersey State Conference of the NAACP and also the former president of the New Jersey Association of Black Educators. I am here today to express my personal opinion on two issues. One is the consideration of tuition and fees, and also the merger of Rutgers Medical School with Robert Wood Johnson. First, on the issue of tuition and fees, tuition and fees are much too high in the state of New Jersey, one of the wealthiest states in the United States of America. The best way to reduce the burden of student debt is to reduce the cost of education in the first place. There's need for more state, federal, and private funding for education in New Jersey, and New Jersey students should not have to pay more than 1/3 of the cost of their education in the state of New Jersey. So I appeal to the Board of Governors not to increase the tuition and fees for the next academic year. On the issue of the merger of Robert Wood Johnson's and Rutgers Medical School, there is some need for transparency in what is really the intent and the economic implications of the merger. New Jersey Medical School should be headquartered and focused in Newark because of the added credibility and to the economic benefits to the Newark and the surrounding communities. Newark is one of the poorest cities in the United States of America, and therefore needs the prevalence and presence of the Rutgers Medical School. Furthermore, the Newark Accords Agreement speak to a requirement that Rutgers University provide both educational and medical provisions in the city of Newark and surrounding communities. There is also the need for more honesty and transparency about the reasons for this proposed merger and consolidations. I'm impressed to hear all of the folks who spoke before me indicating none of them have supported and recommended the merger. The Rutgers Medical University School has had leaders of African ancestry in its leadership and should remain in that way. Dr. Robert Johnson has provided many years of outstanding leadership to the University of Medicine and Dentistry and subsequently to Rutgers Medical School. The presence and leadership of people of African ancestry has many positive implications for underrepresented communities. It is noteworthy that Rutgers University Medical School is headquartered in Essex County, which has the largest African-American population, over 320,000 of the 1.2 million people in the state of New Jersey of African ancestry. Therefore, the location of Rutgers University Medical School has significant impact on the academic and clinical provisions for students interested and involved in the medical professions. And finally, there has not been clear information about the economic and employment impact to the city of Newark, the metropolitan community, and the employment of current and future employees. In summary, I oppose any and all considerations of this because we believe that it will adversely affect the economic, political, social image of Rutgers University Medical School and diminish the current operations in Newark. Thank you for your serious consideration, and we hope that you will oppose the merger at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to go a little bit out of order because I know this individual has a time constraint. I'd like to call Mr. Timothy Pastel.
Good morning. And can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can.
Great. I'm Timothy Pastel, an M3 at NJMS, former member of the Rutgers Senate, current member of NJMS Student Council. I also served on the ad hoc merger committee. I'm here on behalf of current and future Rutgers medical students, and I'd like to speak to the cost of attendance and some of the logistical obstacles that we as students are thinking about with respect to this merger, proposed merger. I believe that my colleague and counterpart at RWJ, Sharif Abdul Wahab, is speaking to residency placement impact, which is also a great concern at NJMS. And actually, before I even begin with my comments, I'd like to echo the previous speakers. We as students at NJMS we have concerns about the preservation of the mission of NJMS and its service to the people of Newark. That is of probably paramount concern to many on campus. Let me return to my arranged remarks. First, graduates leave Rutgers with a tremendous amount of debt, and with increasing frequency, many are electing to leave the expensive state of New Jersey as a consequence. I believe there was a net loss of positions recently. During the last year of merger discussions, the possibility of drastically reducing the cost of attendance for medical students has been suggested. And we would like to know if Rutgers can commit to a zero tuition or a reduced tuition model going forward. We note that reduced tuition models are increasingly prevalent and have conferred a significant and instantaneous reputational boost to schools that have embraced them. More broadly, we'd like to receive assurances that this merger will not be a driver of tuition inflation, but instead arrest and reverse tuition inflation going forward. So we ask, what commitments can we expect with respect to cost of attendance? Second, we are concerned that students may be unnecessarily burdened with additional travel between campuses and or rotation sites. The cost in time and money to students could prove significant. How will you ensure that students are not driving for hours across the state of New Jersey to clock in at a rotation site, only to return multiple hours, commute, return home late at night? And finally, I'll again register the question of residency placement, which along with cost of attendance is perhaps paramount from a student perspective. We have concerns about how residency placement standards will be maintained and improved upon in the event of a merger. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call Ms. Benita Herndon. Sorry if I butchered your name. Ms. Herndon?
Good afternoon. My name is Benita Herndon. I'm an emergency room nurse at University Hospital with over 21 years of experience. And I'm also the president of HPAE Local 5089. I am here before you today to urge you to vote no on the merger of the New Jersey Medical Schools and Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. Being a nurse is a challenging job. I am working to help patients get better and some days providing them just enough care to keep them alive. We are working in an environment that has not constructed to handle the overwhelming volume of patients entering our emergency room. Yet, we continue to do our jobs. But one of the most important roles I have is being a part of a team of professionals. Some days I learn from those around me, and some days I become the teacher. We are committed to ensuring we support one another and all with the interest of caring for our patients. University Hospital is a teaching institution. There is no better training ground to prepare the next generation of medical professionals. It is where innovation happens, and UH is where we care for everyone, no matter your illness, no matter your status, or where you live. We will come together as a team of professionals to do everything in our power to save your life. Today, I am here as an advocate for my community. I am a nurse, a union leader, and I am a part of this community. I ask you to vote no on this merger and work with the New Jersey legislators and regulators to make sure that this merger of medical schools does no harm. I am deeply concerned that this merger will violate the intent of the 1968 Newark Accords and the Restructuring Act of 2012. Safeguards must be put in place to ensure the state honors its commitment to keep higher education, research, and medical resources in Newark. I believe this merger continues to threaten the possibility of substantial negative impact on healthcare delivery in the city of Newark and northern New Jersey. I believe you will agree with me at the University Hospital is a state-owned resource that needs to be nurtured, protected, and supported. University Hospital is connected to New Jersey Medical School as a linchpin for addressing healthcare issues in northern New Jersey and Newark. Since the time of the Newark Accords, University Hospital and New Jersey Medical School together, and only together, have played a significant role in addressing healthcare needs in Newark. New Jersey Medical School losing its identity in Newark and its clear connection to UH is a step in the direction of dismantling the Newark Accords and what they have stood for over 75 years. I'm standing before you to ask you to be on the right side of history and vote no at this time to honor the history, the legacy, and the future of New Jersey Medical School and University Hospital in Newark. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we're going to go out of order one more time so that patients can see their doctor. Mr. Jeffrey Levine, please. Dr. Jeffrey Levine, I apologize.
Can everybody hear me?
We can.
Yes, I'm Dr. Jeff Levine. I'm professor and director of reproductive and gender health programs in the Department of Family Medicine and Community Health, and a very proud faculty member at Robert Wood Johnson Medical School for over 27 years. I serve as vice president of our faculty union, as an elected faculty member of our university senate, Robert Wood Johnson Faculty Council, and Dean's Executive Council. In these roles, I participated in numerous meetings and town halls regarding proposed medical school merger that Chancellor Strom has submitted for your approval. During all of these meetings and in documented surveys, there has been consistent and overwhelming opposition to this merger by our clinical and basic science faculty, those who have the most direct understanding of the impact such a merger will have on our students, residents, fellows, faculty, patients, and our respective communities. We have formally raised thoughtful questions and concerns to Dr. Strom. We have provided pragmatic suggestions on how our two schools can foster more collaboration without the need of a formal merger. However, rather than continue ongoing debate and discussion in a professional manner, Dr. Strom chose to submit his merger proposal while the University Senate was not in session and sent us his consultant's $342,008 ECG report only late last Friday afternoon before a holiday weekend. Under Chancellor Strom's leadership, we have witnessed a steady and dramatic erosion in faculty esprit de corps and trust in our school's leadership, leading to an exodus of some outstanding faculty. If you wonder why, look no further than his disregard for shared governance of our University Senate and lack of adequate response and discussion to questions that were raised by our faculty council and the very committees he created to address concerns regarding the merger. On behalf of our faculty, students, residents, fellows, patients, and our respective communities, I'm urging you to review the results of the RWJMS Faculty Council and NJMS Faculty Organization joint survey regarding this merger and postpone any vote until questions from those who would be most impacted have adequate time to review and to respond to Chancellor Strom's ECG report. Thank you so much for your consideration.
And thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call Mr. Sharif Abdul-Wahab.
Thank you, Ms. Pasva. Members of the board, President Holloway and Chancellor Strom, good afternoon. My name is Sharif Abdul-Wahab. I'm a third-year medical student at RWJMS, a former member of the Rutgers Senate, and the former student representative to the Board of Governors. I also served on the Ad Hoc Culture and Identity Merger Committee. I'll speak briefly about the implications of the merger on residency placement. Separately, you have previously heard from my colleague at NJMS, Tim Pestel, about the merger's implication on cost of attendance. Now, by way of background, residency refers to the period after medical school during which medical graduates train under the tutelage of senior doctors in a given specialty. Placement into well-regarded residency programs is one of the most important factors that students consider when applying to medical schools, and indeed is a key metric of a medical school's reputation and quality of education. Now, some residency programs limit the number of students selected from each medical school. Traditionally, RWJMS and NJMS have been treated by residency programs as separate and distinct schools, notwithstanding that they share the Rutgers name. Accordingly, the proposed merger raises a fundamental question. Will residency programs potentially cap or otherwise limit the number of students selected from the merged medical school? The answer is potentially yes. In February 2023, ECG management consultants prepared a report investigating this very issue. They found, based on a review of approximately 13 residency programs that had both NJMS and RWJMS graduates, that there stood a potential decrease of up to 21 residency spots, just in those 13 programs alone. These spots were in specialties that RWJMS and NJMS graduates commonly pursue, including internal medicine, emergency medicine, and anesthesia, amongst others. More broadly, the report did not undertake a robust survey of residency directors across specialties about this very issue. In fact, just 10 residency directors out of more than 5,000 programs were interviewed. Of those who were interviewed, at least one director forewarned that, quote, many program directors would want to limit the number from any particular school on their rank lists, and that the, quote, unification of those two schools could create a potential strategic disadvantage for students to match into some residency programs. In closing, the objective of this merger is, amongst other things, to create a preeminent medical school that places its graduates in the best residency programs across specialties. But without further careful examination and a more robust analysis of this important issue regarding residency, we run the risk of undermining this objective entirely. That should give us pause. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call Ms. Lavita Johnson to speak.
Hello, thank you, Ms. Pava. Good afternoon, dear esteemed Board of Governors, particularly President Jonathan Holloway, Nancy Cancer of Rutgers University, as well as Chancellor Strom right here at Newark. I hope this message reaches you all well. I am speaking in capacity of the second vice president of the Newark branch NAACP, also a member of the Newark Coalition of Concerned Citizens that included previous speaker, Ms. Ingrid Hill. We respectfully wish to address an issue of significant concern that is currently surfacing within our communities. the proposed merger of the New Jersey Medical School in Newark, here in New Jersey, within the Robert Wood Johnson Medical School is in New Brunswick. We believe that this proposed merger, if executed, may have far-reaching implications that will undermine the very principles of equality, access to healthcare, and educational opportunities that the NAACP has consistently championed. Consequently, we respectfully request that you all, the Board of Governors of Rutgers University, excuse me, hold on one second, to extend its formidable support to oppose this merger, thereby reinforcing the mission of the NAACP to ensure the equitable distribution of healthcare and educational resources. Excuse me, allergies. The consolidation of these two important medical institutions may lead to an undue concentration of resources in one area with potential deprivation to others. It may also disrupt the pathways for many of our young people aspiring to become medical professionals, particularly those belonging to the underserved Black and Brown communities in Newark and the greater Newark area. We trust that you all, the Board of Governors of Rutgers University, understand the significant matter and will stand with us in opposition. Your support will be instrumental to ensuring that our community's voice is heard and that our concerns are effectively addressed. Thank you in advance for your valuable attention to this matter. And we are confident that together we can continue to work in the interest of our communities. I sign off again as the second Vice President of the Newark Branch NAACP, and I reiterate, 1, vote no. 2, honor our Newark Accords, and 3, may God bless you all and have a safe and enjoyable summer.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call our final speaker, Dr. Joshua Berlin.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you on the proposed merger of Rutgers Medical Schools. A convincing argument has not been put forward that a merger of Rutgers' 2 medical schools will yield a significant improvement in their clinical, teaching, and research activities. More importantly, the effort to merge the medical schools has been a distraction from more critical and immediate issues that definitely impact the ability of the New Jersey Medical School to function as Rutgers' top-tier biomedical research and teaching institution. I have a more complete understanding of the operations and facilities on the New Jersey Medical School campus than most faculty because in the wake of Superstorm Sandy in 2012, Dean Johnson asked me to chair a task force to examine the capability of a medical school to continue clinical, teaching, and research operations during and after natural disasters. Our task force identified many critical issues, some of which have been addressed. However, many issues relating to campus buildings, most especially the medical science building, the largest research and teaching building on the Newark biomedical campus, have not been resolved and in fact have become more acute. In short, the medical science building infrastructure is decrepit and in need of immediate improvements. A plan for a much needed major renovation of the medical science building exists, and given its central role in supporting the clinical teaching and research activities of the school, one would imagine that the renovation project would be given the highest priority by the university administration. However, while we see building and renovation projects being undertaken in other parts of the university, funds for the medical science building renovation have yet to be secured. It remains unclear when the renovation will occur, if ever. Instead, the effort to merge the medical school has advanced without the support of the faculty and students of the 2 schools, the university senate, and the communities most directly affected by the planned merger. I urge the board to focus its attention on the most critical issues facing the university and the medical school and not be distracted by the facade of a larger medical school. Rutgers has the resources to be a leading biomedical institution if those resources are directed to supporting the core clinical, teaching, and research functions of the university. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the number of speakers that signed up to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. At this time, I would like to call on Dr. Brian Strom, Chancellor for Rutgers Biomedical and Health Sciences and Executive Vice President for Health Affairs, to address the board. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. New Jersey Medical School and Robert Wood Johnson Medical School were originally set up by the founding presidents of UMDNJ to compete with each other. This was about 50 years ago. This model fostered rapid growth, and it was apt for its time. The question is that we're addressing is really whether the current model is the optimal structure for medical education today, and is it sustainable in today's healthcare market, where physicians are coming together into groups, hospitals are coming together into systems, and our major competition is not local. Our major competition is regional, and particularly New York and Philadelphia. From a patient care point of view. In addition, from a national point of view, the model that we have multiple independently accredited schools in a single university, is an extremely unusual model. There are only 4 universities that have it, and one of them, in addition to Rutgers, is talking about combining it. In contrast, there are many universities that have multiple schools under a single accreditation. And it's important to emphasize that what we're talking about is not either school disappearing or anything being merged into anything else from that point of view, but changing the accreditation, accrediting the 2 schools as a single accreditation rather than anything being merged back and forth. We've now gone through this for nearly a 5-year process. It began with the Future of Academic Medicine Committee report starting in 2019. That went to the University Senate. The Senate came up with 350 questions, distilled with the Senate leadership down into 35 unique questions. And those in turn, then we had multiple committees set up, and you've heard some of the discussion from the committees. We've had town halls, we've had school town halls, community town halls, we've had a public webpage. All of this information has been public and available. We've collected information on the public webpage. The advice and feedback we have gotten from all of this has been extremely useful and has really helped shape the final proposal that you have before you, and in particularly the guardrails and protections for Newark that you see in the final proposal before you. The concerns expressed were addressed in many ways in the resolution with these proposals. There are many different benefits that you've seen potential benefits that you've seen the documentation of. Let me just raise a couple. One of them is educational. The best medical schools give their students experiences in a university hospital, a community hospital, and a safety net hospital. We split them. Combining the 2 schools gives more opportunities. It's not, the class sizes are not going to change. The faculty component is not going to shrink. It's only going to increase. So the student to faculty ratio isn't going to get worse. The clinical facilities are not going to decrease in the process. A lot of the concerns about having a large medical school class like this would be a concern if we were talking about one of our 2 schools and abandoning one of the 2 cities. But we've never ever talked about abandoning one of the 2 cities. And in fact, it'll have no impact on costs. It'll have no impact on residency placement, as the ECG consulting report that you've seen documents. Perhaps most importantly, though, is the impact on caring for our communities, caring for our local communities, caring for the people of New Jersey. Right now, with the size of the cities that we serve, we can't provide the highest level care because there aren't enough patients who need that level care in any one of the cities. We need the ability to be able to hire people who can freely move between the cities and provide care in both of the cities as need be. Right now, to get the highest level care, people need to go to New York or Philadelphia. That's more expensive for us. It's more expensive for the patients. It's more expensive for the state health plan. It's more expensive for the insurers, and it's more expensive for the patients most of all. And the most important for the patients who can't afford to go to New York or Philadelphia to get their care. They can't get that kind of care. Right now, to provide the highest end care in Newark, we need a university hospital to guarantee the fiscal risk for that. And it's too expensive for University Hospital and in many cases. And indeed, I echo and support the statements of the speakers in terms of the importance of University Hospital, the importance of supporting it. This, in fact, will aid University Hospital. And in fact, this merger is supported by the CEO of the University Hospital. And parenthetically, this merger would immediately take us from a medical school ranked medical schools ranked in their in the 70s to medical school 60s or 70s for the two schools to medical school ranked in the top 50 overnight. The proposal here again is subject to board approval, is to move forward to seek LCME accreditation as a single school of medicine. This is an accreditation change. This isn't a question of moving programs out of one place and into another place. The focus here is on a single accreditation instead of two accreditations. Each school will continue having a local dean. And in fact, Bob Johnson, who was mentioned as a terrific dean in Newark, will continue as the dean, the co-dean responsible for Newark. Each will retain significant autonomy, neither ever subordinate to the other. Each will have separate budgets, and the budget process for each of them won't change. There will be no drain of resources from one site to another site as part of this. Each school will maintain the current affiliation with their principal teaching hospital, again, University Hospital in Newark and Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital in New Brunswick. Rather than abandoning Newark, which was the concern of a number of our speakers, quite the opposite. Our key goal and our key task here is to accelerate the investment in Newark. My major task, as the president and I have talked about over the next year, is to in fact accelerate the pace of the renovation of the medical science building in Newark, which is problematic, as has been talked about, and does need renovation. We need to move that while continuing to support University Hospital in its needs for renovation. It is important to remember that, however, that Rutgers doesn't control University Hospital. So the concerns you've heard expressed by multiple speakers about University Hospital do need to be addressed. But Rutgers doesn't own or control University Hospital, unlike what was the case with UMD&J. Again, we've done this process now for essentially 5 years. The next steps, if supported by the Board of Governors, is that Deans Johnson and Murtha in Newark and in New Brunswick will convene a faculty summit to begin planning. With much more detailed planning is needed, as has been called for by a number of people. That has to be done in consultation with LCME, the accrediting body. That can't be done until we can consult with LCME, because it's clear that that board is interested potentially in moving forward. For example, do we keep two separate curricula in the two schools with an Uber approval of competencies, or do we in some way merge it? Those are faculty decisions to go forward in the future in consultation with LCME as part of that. Do we keep two different admissions processes, or do we merge in some way the admissions processes? Again, those are faculty decisions that have to go forward, again, in consultation with LCME. There is an enormous amount of work yet to be done. That work can't be done except jointly with the accrediting body. And we've had an independent consultant try to help us with that, but we need to be able to formally consult with the accrediting body to help us make these decisions. We can't do that without board authorization. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Strom. Does any member of the board have any comments or questions for Dr. Strom before we move forward? Okay, hearing none, I do have a statement that I would like to share with the board and those who are on this call. Thank you all for your comments today. And I thank all of you for those who have sent letters and emails, along with several phone calls that I have received. Let me say, we hear you, we respect you, and we value our communities, and that definitely includes the city of Newark and the surrounding neighborhoods. And speaking of Newark, I'd like to provide some context why Newark is important to me. My career started in downtown Newark about 35 years ago. I've served on several community organization boards and currently work with many others. I met with the past 4 mayors on many occasions, and consistently, our discussions have been how additional resources can be leveraged to support the city and its residents. Because I've always had a focus on and for Newark, I assure you that this board will not present any false expectations. We have an obligation to our communities, and we will be medically and physically responsible to them. Not every difference in opinion is a difference in principle. Yet it's often hard to see the picture when you are in the frame. We will build upon our partnerships and deliver on this unique opportunity. Finally, I recognize the many challenges, and furthermore, I am very optimistic about the positive impact for all of our stakeholders in the future. Thank you. At this point, I would like to ask Mr. Piazza on the Committee of Academic and Student Affairs for his report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Committee on Academic and Student Affairs met on Thursday, July 6, 2023, virtually via Zoom. In executive session, the committee reviewed a recommendation involving an academic appointment with tenure. The committee agreed to endorse the recommendation for board approval, and it has been placed in the consent agenda. The committee also heard from Rutgers Biomedical and Health Sciences Chancellor Brian Strom, who presented for endorsement the proposed resolution to pursue a single medical school accreditation, including New Jersey Medical School and Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. Chancellor Strom outlined the parameters and context behind the proposal and detailed the more than 4-year process that led to the proposal, which included feedback from University Senate and other constituents throughout the university and surrounding communities, and the rationale for the proposal. He then reviewed the next steps contingent on board approval for the proposed resolution and provided a timeline of up to 5 years from now and a framework of key decision points. The presentation built on Chancellor Strom's presentation to the committee at its May 31st meeting, where Chancellor Strom also went into detail on the proposed and the process behind the proposal to establish a single school with a presence in both Newark and New Brunswick. Following a detailed discussion, the committee agreed to endorse the resolution for board approval. Mr. Chair, I would like now to read the resolution.
Thank you.
Proposed resolution established Rutgers School of Medicine, including New Jersey Medical School and Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. Whereas Rutgers University currently operates 2 allopathic medical schools, Robert Wood Johnson Medical School, RWJMS, located in New Brunswick and Piscataway, New Jersey, and New Jersey Medical School, NJMS, located in Newark, New Jersey. And whereas in 1971, RWJMS, originally known as Rutgers Medical School, combined with NJMS and the New Jersey Dental School to form the College of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey. And whereas in 1981, the College of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey was renamed the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey, UMDNJ. And whereas in 2012, the governor of the state of New Jersey signed the New Jersey Medical and Health Sciences Education Restructuring Act, PL 2012 C.45, which transferred RWJMS and JMS, among other schools, centers, and institutes from UMDNJ to Rutgers Biomedical Health Sciences. And whereas RWJMS and NJMS each have a student body of comparable size and qualifications, and a faculty of comparable size and reputation. And whereas NJMS and RWJMS have long-standing programmatic, clinical, and community commitments with their own principal teaching hospital, University Hospital in Newark and Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital in New Brunswick, and will maintain these commitments. And whereas, if considered together, the sum of the educational, research, and clinical achievements and potential of RWJMS and NJMS are even more impressive than their individual parts. And whereas over the past 10 years, the landscape of medical education and healthcare delivery has changed dramatically and continues to evolve and demands innovative solutions to keep both medical schools at its forefront. And whereas in 2013, Rutgers University joined the Big Ten Academic Alliance, a consortium of leading biomedical and health science institutions of higher education in the United States to expand the opportunities of education and research collaboration. And whereas in 2018, Rutgers University entered into a 20-year master affiliation agreement with RWJ Barnabas Health, the largest health system in New Jersey, greatly expanding the university's access to clinical research and education opportunities. And whereas in January 2019, the RBHS Chancellor constituted the Future of Academic Medicine Committee, charging it with developing the Future of Academic Medicine Report, which was shared with the University Senate in January 2020, which after consideration posed a series of questions. And whereas following a hiatus prompted by the COVID-19 pandemic, the Chancellor and medical school deans commissioned 3 committees to review and respond to the questions posed by the University Senate, resulting in a report entitled Envisioning the Future of Academic Medicine, which was delivered to the Senate on January 31st, 2023. And whereas the RBHS Chancellor and the deans of RWJMS and NJMS have determined that a further integration of NJMS and RWJMS under a singly accredited medical school would benefit the educational, research, and clinical missions of each school and Rutgers University as a whole in a number of ways, including but not limited to A, collaboratively engaging a broader scope and scale of teaching talent, learning content, and clinical experiences to benefit educators, learners, and patients. B, better leveraging the university's growing impact on clinical, translational, and basic science research, placing Rutgers at the forefront of the innovation economy and attracting more federal and industry funding. C, expanding the scope of tertiary and quaternary clinical services, including cutting-edge treatments available to all members of the New Jersey community, particularly those living in underserved areas. D, enhancing the university's reputation through public recognition of our excellent medical education programs and research portfolios and increase overall national ranking. E, fostering efficient administrative processes and systems that inhibit faculty productivity and employee satisfaction. And F, a renewed commitment to community engagement and outreach through formalized structures and advisory committees that will enhance communication and feedback to medical school and our BHS leadership. And whereas while NJMS and RWJMS continue to maintain distinct administrative processes, the schools already have benefited from the synergies associated with certain shared functions, such as graduate medical education, a single chair for certain clinical departments, a combined continuing medical education program, and activities associated with the Clinical and Translational Science Awards, CTSA. And whereas the specific implementation of the various aspects of the envisioned medical school integration will still require more detailed planning about admissions, curriculum, campus culture, accreditation, residency placements, fiscal matters, administrative structure, governance, nomenclature, branding, and faculty affairs practices, as well as application to the Liaison Committee on Medical Education, LCME, of the Association of American Medical Colleges and the Medical Association, which will require additional planning up to and including faculty committee work, consultation with LCME in anticipation of an LCME site visit, followed by an LCME site visit, all of which require a commitment to initiating the above-mentioned synergies. And whereas the RBHS Chancellor has expressed his commitment to continue stakeholder consultation with the University Senate, faculty, staff, students, and community members, including continuing community and campus-based town halls and other mechanisms to receive more formal input from the faculties of NJMS and RWJMS, as well as other stakeholder communities, providing detailed responses to remaining questions and concerns development of more detailed information and strategies concerning admissions, curriculum, campus culture, accreditation, residency placement, fiscal matters, administrative structure, governance, nomenclature, branding, and faculty affairs. And whereas, among other benefits, the integration of the medical schools will further the following two principal goals, one external, one internal. Externally, it will position Rutgers School of Medicine as one of the largest and leading public medical schools in the country, committed both to the highest standards of education, research, and clinical care, and the ideal of partnership with its academic medical center partners, University Hospital, Newark, and Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, being an anchor institution civically engaged and responsive and serving communities of Newark and New Brunswick, as well as the state of New Jersey as a whole. Internally, Rutgers School of Medicine will provide Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, with a single accredited flagship medical school that will be an unparalleled hub of biomedical and health science education, research, and clinical care, connecting diverse academic units and supporting the strategic priorities of Rutgers and the state of New Jersey. And whereas the integration of RWJMS and NJMS as co-equal bodies under a single Rutgers School of Medicine would therefore go far beyond a simple operational reconfiguration into one medical school. When complete, it envisions a medical school that enjoys a national reputation greater than the sum of its parts, amplifying the university's call to engage to excellence, engagement, and strategic clarity, and that is a force connecting all the components in a diverse community of educators, researchers, students, clinicians, and patients through a process of dynamic engagement, and also positions Rutgers to State University of New Jersey as a leader in 21st century medical education. And whereas the Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital and University Hospital of Newark are deeply committed to providing the highest level of tertiary and quaternary clinical services to the diverse communities of New Brunswick, Newark, and surrounding regions, increasing clinical access to tertiary and quaternary services. And whereas on July 6, 2023, the Board of Governors Committee on Academic and Student Affairs, and on July 7, 2023, the Board of Governors Executive Committee, each separately, considered the initial integration of RWJMS and NJMS under a singly accredited Rutgers School of Medicine as described herein, and believes it's in the best interest of RBHS, its faculty, staff, students, and the communities that they serve, and therefore recommended that the Board of Governors approve it. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Governors of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, upon the recommendation of the Committee on Academic and Student Affairs and the Executive Committee as follows. Section 1. The foregoing recitals are hereby incorporated by reference into this Section 1 as if fully restated herein, and are hereby ratified and confirmed. Section 2. NJMS and RWJMS are organized under a single Rutgers School of Medicine. Section 3. The RBHS Chancellor shall take those steps necessary to establish Rutgers School of Medicine as a single accredited medical school. Section 4. The Dean of RWJMS and the Dean of NJMS shall serve as co-deans of a jointly administered Rutgers School of Medicine, reporting directly to the Chancellor and representing the interests of the faculty, staff, and students of their individual medical schools campus, and supporting the implementation of integration into a single accredited medical school. The Dean of RWJMS shall continue to maintain an office in the city of New Brunswick, New Jersey. The Dean of NJMS shall continue to maintain an office in the city of Newark, New Jersey. The Chancellor shall continue to maintain offices in both the city of Newark and the city of New Brunswick. Section 5. Consistent with the requirements of the accreditation process, the integration of RWJMS and NJMS will be conducted in a manner that promotes equitable representation and allocation of resources in the common administration of Rutgers School of Medicine. The RBHS Chancellor shall continue to administer both NJMS and RWJMS under Rutgers School of Medicine. Section 6. As part of the Liaison Committee on Medical Education and the Association of American Medical Colleges and the American Medical Association, LCME, medical school accreditation process, the RBHS Chancellor will engage in the development of further stakeholder consultation, communication, and support, particularly as it relates to the details of admissions, curriculum, campus culture, accreditation, residency placements, fiscal matters, administrative structure, governance, nomenclature, branding, and faculty affairs practices. Section 7, notwithstanding the foregoing organization on the Rutgers School of Medicine, NJMS shall remain in the city of Newark, New Jersey, and University Hospital Newark shall continue to be the principal teaching hospital of NJMS. Section 8, notwithstanding the foregoing organization on the Rutgers School of Medicine, RWJMS shall remain in the city of New Brunswick, New Jersey, and Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital shall continue to be the principal teaching hospital of RWJMS, subject to the associated contractual agreements. Section 9, upon accreditation as a single school by the LCME, the Rutgers School of Medicine shall develop and maintain a new community advisory board to provide direct and ongoing feedback from community members in and around Newark and New Brunswick on outreach, concerns, and expectations. Section 10, on a biannual basis, the Chancellor shall report to the Board of Governors regarding the substance and progress of stakeholder engagement, questions that have arisen, and the responses that have been provided, and significant milestones achieved in furtherance of the objectives described in this resolution. Board of Governors, Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, July 10th, 2023. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Thank you, Mr. Piazza. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Piazza, for your report and for the reading of the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This concludes the report on the Committee on Academic and Student Affairs.
Now we'll move on to Committee on Finance and Facilities. I would like to ask Mr. Tambusi for his report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board of Governors Committee on Finance and Facilities met on July 10th, 2023 to review the annual budget process and discuss the proposed budget. The proposed budget was presented in detail by university administration and discussed extensively and robustly by the committee at its meeting immediately preceding this one. Committee members probed the budget assumptions to understand and subsequently endorse the proposed budget, as well as the administration's recommendations for tuition, mandatory fees, and room and board rates for the upcoming academic year. This task was not taken lightly. What I'd like to do with the chair's permission is to have Mr. Moore and Mr. Gower present key points from the budget presentation. At the committee meeting, Mr. Moore, Associate Vice President and Chief Budget Officer, presented for endorsement the proposed resolution to approve the university's consolidated expense budget of $5.4 billion for fiscal year 23-24. He explained the key revenue and expense items that resulted in an expected deficit of $77.3 million, improved from the $125 million deficit budgeted for the previous fiscal year. Mr. Moore then presented for endorsement proposed resolutions to set tuition, mandatory student fees, room rates, and board rates for fiscal year 2023-2024, including proposed tuition increases of 6% for typical undergraduate programs, proposed mandatory student fee increases of 6%, proposed increases to housing room rates and residence education fees of 5%, and proposed increases to dining board plan rates of up to 7% for students' dining plans for operations managed by Rutgers. With the chair's permission, I'd ask Mr. Moore to review the key points from this presentation, followed by observations from Executive Vice President, Chief Financial Officer, and University Treasurer J. Michael Gower.
Absolutely.
Mr. Moore, please.
Thank you. I think as we start, Mr. Gower had a few items that he wanted to cover.
Fair enough.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. A little over a year ago, David and I came to this board to ask approval of the aforementioned budget for fiscal 23, which contained a $125.5 million operating deficit, what I would call the first post-COVID budget. And at that time, I mentioned a few items that we referred to as pressures ahead or headwinds as we were looking to fiscal 24. Those included declines in traditional high school graduates, also decline in enrollment at county colleges, which are so important as feeders into our campuses, cost of compensation and benefit increases, in particular benefit programs provided by the state of New Jersey, whose costs have been increasing rapidly. The high cost of living in general, increased inflation as that affects the university and commodities and different other costs, the impact of the Great Resignation, and then general uncertainty about the continued impacts resulting from the pandemic. In fact, all of those things were major headwinds as we look to the fiscal 24 budget that is prepared today, including the compensation settlements that resulted from collective bargaining agreements, as well as what I mentioned in terms of benefit increases, those in particular, since they can consist of 66% plus of our budget, have a significant impact. What we also considered as we came along, not only the cost of those programs, how we would make progress against that significant budget deficit. President has mentioned in previous meetings the need for a multi-year plan that gradually brings us back into balance. The budget that we're presenting today is the first year of that process. And finally, that anything that we would do, anything that we are proposing, in this case, what is for our circumstance, a large increase in tuition relative to recent years, would take into consideration impact on need-based financial aid, in particular, our university-based programs such as Run to the Top, Bridging the Gap, Scarlet Guarantee, and that those plans be bolstered financially so that participants would be generally held harmless. This budget reflects that insofar as in the proposed tuition increase, we're dedicating a significant proportion of that increase back into that need-based financial aid. So with that setting, I'd like to have Mr. Moore go through the presentation, and then, of course, we will respond to any questions later.
Thank you, Mike. The proposed budget for FY 2024 reflects the values of Rutgers University in fulfilling its core priorities of teaching, research, service, and patient care. The budget reflects a statement of our priorities and values while taking steps to preserve access and affordability. Next slide. The proposed budget will spend approximately $5.4 billion. Of that, 77% is spent on our core missions of student instruction, research, public service, and patient care. 15% is spent on operations and maintenance for our facilities and supports administration. 5% is spent on auxiliary enterprises, which primarily includes housing and dining and parking operations. And 3% is spent on athletics. Next slide. So let's look a little deeper into the categories to get a little better understanding. Classroom instruction and academic support, which makes up approximately 1/3 of the budget. This includes faculty compensation and staff support for academic units, libraries, and dean's offices, and this makes up $1.77 billion. This budget strives to support and advance Rutgers' high-quality instruction and academic excellence. Student scholarships, financial aid, public service, extension, and patient care comprises 32% of the budget, or $1.69 billion. This budget preserves and increases investments in student scholarship funding. Sponsor research and other sponsor programs make up 12% of the budget and includes funds spent on research associated with federal and state and non-government grants and contracts. Together, these items represent the core missions of the student instruction, research, public service, and patient care that account for $4.1 billion, or 77% of the annual budget. Next slide. Rounding out the remaining 23% of the budget is administration operations, which includes support for central administrative offices, as well as support for Rutgers facilities, including upkeep and utility costs, which accounts for approximately 15%. Auxiliary enterprises, which includes housing and dining operations at approximately 5% of the annual budget. And athletics includes the 24 men's and women's Division I sport programs at Rutgers, New Brunswick. It accounts for approximately 3% of the annual budget. It is important to note that nearly 3/4 of the athletics budget is supported through funds generated by the athletic program. Next slide. As Mike mentioned, there was a number of pressures not only going in, but throughout the year and continuing into the development of the FY 2024 financial plan. A few of those include student support and financial aid, salary increases, as well as rising costs for health care premiums and pension contributions, and inflationary increases that can be seen in utilities commodities, such as energy, and all other non-personnel expense categories. Let's now turn to where the funds come from. Approximately 27.4% of our revenues come from student tuition and fees. Just over 21% of the university revenues come from the state of New Jersey, some in restricted operating support, and a portion to cover the cost of fringe benefits for some of our employees. Patient care services include revenues from governmental payers, private insurers, and affiliated agreements for patient care services, which accounts for 20.8%. And sponsored research includes grants and contracts from federal, state, and non-governmental entities that makes up 15.1%. Rounding out the overall revenue sources is miscellaneous sources, which includes student, federal, and state aid, auxiliary enterprises, athletics, endowment, and investment income, which accounts for 15.3% of the annual revenues. I'll now turn to tuition fees and financial aid. The budget proposes a 6% increase in tuition and a 6% increase in mandatory student fees for most undergraduate and graduate programs. For a typical undergraduate arts and science student who is a New Jersey resident, this will equate to, on average, $387 for tuition and $100 for mandatory student fees per semester. For students choosing to live on campus, room, board, and residential educational fee will increase based on the type of room and meal plan that is selected. Next slide. We put a high priority on keeping Rutgers affordable by providing our students with institutional student aid, qualifying state and federal aid, and grant programs. Next slide. There are many ways that Rutgers students and their families are able to reduce out-of-pocket costs. This slide takes a look at the student level at each campus. 4 out of 5 of our undergraduate students receive some form of financial aid. For example, although the total costs at Rutgers, New Brunswick are defined as over $31,000, based on previous year data, the average price to a first-year in-state student receiving aid is only approximately 55%. When you look at those numbers and take them out to the other campuses, that's 58% Newark and 48% at Camden. Next slide. As we look at what Rutgers is doing to preserve and improve access and affordability, we can look at the institutional financial aid that is offered. There is the Scarlet Guarantee Program at Rutgers, New Brunswick, the Run to the Top program at Rutgers, Newark, and the Bridging the Gap program at Rutgers Camden. These programs are complemented by the state's New Jersey Garden State Guarantee program as well. They are designed to make college more accessible and affordable by offering the last dollar of financial aid for students. Next slide. We also see improvement that can be seen on the state and federal financial aid levels in FY 2024. For example, the Garden State Guarantee will start to mirror the 3 programs designed at Rutgers by adding a new third tier to its program. In addition, in FY 2024, under the new budget that was passed by the state of New Jersey, the New Jersey Tuition Aid Grant or TAG funds will see an increase after a number of years where the funding had remained flat. And further, on the federal level, we did see in 2023 a much needed increase in the Pell Grants, with some indication that there could be more positive changes in 2024. These critical financial aid programs, coupled with what those that are provided at Rutgers through institutional aid, helps our students and helps our most neediest students. Next slide. I'll now turn the presentation over to Mr. Gower to talk about future opportunities and challenges and overall reflections.
Thank you, David. Similar to last year, I do want to point out challenges, but I also want to point out opportunities. I think there's been significant focus by the administration in the past year, and will continue to do so as we go forward. These are some opportunities: enrollment strategy and new program development throughout the institution. The emphasis on that has been significant, and I think that will bear fruit. Maximizing the utilization of our assets, including utilization during the summer. Revenue diversification, certainly an issue and one that we are addressing. Cost controls and improved operations and organization through service and program reviews is critical. With a significant amount of cost curtailment in the central administration and in the chancellor's central administrations this year. We have to look throughout the rest of the university for opportunities for that in terms of operation organization. We will still be impacted by cost increases. We now know what the salary impacts are going to be, at least projected from the standpoint of the collective bargaining agreements. What is unknown is will there be additional pressures on fringe benefit costs, in particular the healthcare costs that went up dramatically this year, as provided by the state of New Jersey. Other general inflationary pressures, certainly we have to see how those continue. There's been some diminishment in energy, but a lot of the commodities that we address or need here are still being forced up. And likewise, the decline in traditional high school graduates, along with county college enrollments, as I mentioned before. So these things that we must focus on. This budget takes a first chunk, if you will, out of the deficit on a multi-year basis in order to get back into balance. And there are a lot of things that remain to be needed. The administration will be focusing on in the next several years. Mr. Chair, that concludes our report. Mr. Tembusi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With the chair's permission, I would like to, unless there's any questions, introduce 4 resolutions in turn.
Okay.
The first resolution, Mr. Chair, is for the adoption of, I move the resolution for approval of the approving fiscal year 2023-24 budget set forth at page 230 of the meeting book.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next motion is I move the resolution for approval of tuition rates for fiscal year 2023-2024 as found at page 232 of the meeting materials.
Could I get a second?
Second.
Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I next move the resolution for approval of mandatory student fees as found on page 244 of the meeting book.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lastly, I move the resolution for approval of room and board rates along with residence education fees as found at page 252 of the meeting materials.
Could I get a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Mr.
Mr. Chair,
Tambusi,
that concludes the report of the Committee on Finance and Facilities.
thank you very much, Mr. Tambusi, and thank you for all the work that has gone into this process.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Engelson to move the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are there any items that any member of the board wishes to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, upon the recommendation of Jose Piazza, Chair of the Committee on Academic and Student Affairs, I move that the board approve the items contained in the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Engelson. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. At this time, I'd like to ask, thank you, Mr. Engelson. Is there any old business? Is there any new business to be brought to the Board of Governors? Before I ask for a motion for adjournment, I'd like to ask President Holloway if he has any final remarks that he would like to make.
Not on this occasion, thank you.
Thank you, President Holloway. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. We are now adjourned.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you for all the
Thank
work
you.
that's gone into this process.